It's a whole lot of us, that's my family. Wanna go higher, turn up the tempo, increase the BPM, okay. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM.
What's up, guys? Chris Morgan, FCA at the University of Louisville. Welcome to our weekly podcast, In the Huddle, where we hear the stories of current and former athletes at the University of Louisville, what God has done, what he's doing, and what he will continue to do. I am super excited about today to have Callie pass. Callie is a former cheerleader at the University of Louisville. Thanks for coming on our show, Callie.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you're from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes.
Mercy High School.
Yes, correct.
Has cheer always been your kind of like your jam or your go-to, or what other sports did you play, Mercy?
Yeah. So I've always been a cheerleader since I was 5 years old. So it was always my number one sport that I kind of put on the top. In grade school, I did other sports. So I did like track. I played softball, volleyball. And then once I got to high school, they kind of had you choose one just because it takes up a lot of time, especially cheer. So I just cheered in high school at Mercy.
Okay. My wife, I married a former cheerleader, and my wife would fight anyone that said that cheerleading was not a sport. So, and I didn't realize all of the time and practice that went in. You know, you think of cheer, you just think of go team. There's so much more to that. Like, tell us a little bit about the time demand on cheerleading, like practice. What is that? What does all that look like?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot. And I think a lot of people think it's just sideline cheerleading, nothing much to it. But the time commitment, it's a lot. Even coming from high school, and that's why they only let us do one sport in high school if you did cheer, just because it was an all year round thing, practicing all the time. But getting to college, I would say we practiced at least 4 times a week when that wasn't competition season. Competition season, you're practicing every day. But football season, that's not our competition season. So we were practicing 3 to 4 times a week, and then we would be cheering football games. So that was usually every Saturday, traveling with the team. Usually almost like a 7-day-a-week thing.
Yeah,
every
and those
week.
practices, just so people understand, those practices are not happening like from 2 to 5 or like 5 to 6. What I remember speaking to your all's teams. What time those practices happen?
Yeah, so they started at 9 o'clock at night. The end time was never the exact same. It was usually around midnight. Yeah. 11:30, midnight, kind of depended on the day.
And it's not just cheering. There's a lot of tumbling. There's a lot of, you're in sync with everybody. It's a team. And you guys are like a group, not only just a cheer group, but I mean, national champion. How many national championship teams were you on at the University of Louisville?
So I won twice. They've won a lot of national titles between the 3 teams, but me personally, I won 2 times.
Yeah.
In my 5 years.
Yeah, but that's two national championships. That's phenomenal. So did you always want to come to the University of Louisville, even though you went to Mercy?
So actually, I was unsure my first few years of high school. I actually wanted to get out of Louisville just because, I was a teenager. I was like, I want to go somewhere else for college and experience something else. But then my senior year of high school, I cheered at gym time, which is the all-star gym that's associated with U of L cheer. And I was on a cheer team with some U of L athletes, and I got to know them really well and talked to them about it. And it was at that point that I had decided I wanted to do the same thing and go cheer at U of L.
I love speaking to different teams, but I've always taken a joy out of going with Tammy or even my daughters to gym time where you all practice and bringing popsicles or ice cream at midnight when you all get done. So that's a joy to watch. to watch what God has done through that team. Everybody has a story. Everybody has, a testimony. Revelation, it says they'll be set free by the blood of the Lamb, excuse me, which is Jesus, but also the word of a testimony. A lot of people don't know what a testimony is. It kind of seems very theological, and if people aren't brought up in that, they have no idea what it is. A testimony is just what your life was before Christ. What was the defining moment where Christ got a hold of your life, and what has your life been like since? And so we're going to kind of follow that pattern. I think your story is phenomenal. I'm so proud of you in so many ways, and we'll get to that here shortly. But tell us, you're very close to your family, but tell us what it was like from a spiritual standpoint. Was that, growing up, was spiritual things where they talked about? Tell us, just growing up, what was that like?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Catholic family. So we were introduced to church and God. We went to Catholic school growing up, went to church on Sundays at Catholic church. My mom would actually sign us up for hospitality on Sundays sometimes. So my brother and I, we didn't love it, but we went. So we would carry the body of Christ down the aisle and greet people and do that. So we did that growing up. And then in high school, I would say I kind of stopped going to church a little bit just because I got a little older. And I guess it was my mom wasn't forcing me as much to go to church. It was kind of on me. So I kind of lost that a little bit in high school.
Yeah. There's so many distractions for people, especially you from Louisville. The scenery is still the same. Some of the same people that you knew in high school, in college. You're making new friends. You even knew some of the college athletes when you were in high school because of gym time. So the transition was just perfect for you to kind of come in and not get lost in the shuffle, that you knew people. And like I said, everybody has distractions or things that they're up against. What's some things that you look back and maybe have seen, I really let this area of this distraction really start to become something that really took over my life?
Yeah, so much. I think there's so many distractions out there. One being, I was a really big partier. So I would say from my late teenage years into early adulthood, that was something that was a really big distraction for me. I would say it took away a lot from a lot of things in my life.
Being partying, and some people really enjoy getting out. It's the fun, it's exciting times, and I've been there. I've been in college, and I understand what that's like. But then there's some people that just do that because they're really trying to find who they are. And they're finding this group or finding this group, and it doesn't have to be partying. It could be anything. It could even be a sport. And when you say from late teenage to early to 20s, what exactly does that look like? Let us in your world a little bit, just what, because I know we're celebrating something. We are celebrating. I'll kind of set it up with that. I'm gonna give you the little fist bump on that.
Thank you.
Year and 2 months. A year and 2 months sober.
Yes.
That's well done.
Thank you.
So proud of you for doing that. That's an amazing thing. But even as young as you are, to say I'm a year and 2 months sober. So it's possible to be a 18 to 23-year-old and be an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How does it happen? How does that? I know how it happens, but how does it happen?
Yeah. I ask myself the same thing sometimes. It happens fast, I think. You just kind of get lost in it all, and it's easy in high school. It seems it's what everybody's doing. And then you get to college, you get a lot more freedom. And then, of course, you turn 21, you have even more freedom. And depending on what you do with that, and what you go through, I went through a couple of breakups and some different things that I didn't cope in a good way with. I also come from a family that pretty active in the bar scene and with alcohol. So it was introduced to me at a pretty young age. But yeah, it just kind of happened really fast.
And your story is it doesn't necessarily need just alcohol. You know, when you're coming into college, and what I've seen and what I was even part of, that you say breakups, you say losing a position, you say, you know, I feel like coach doesn't like me, I feel like I bombed a test. And in those times, you're away from family and you got some new things, but you're running to certain things. And that's why, you know, whether it's mental health or whether it's this or that, why things are so important to really seek out help. Like I'm not the only one that's dealing with this. And even though it's hard for me to understand, you know, a young college student being an alcoholic, you're not alone. There's probably other college students throughout the country that are dealing with the same thing. So that's the power of the story. You're running to certain things. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be sex, it could be pornography, it could be all of these different things that we're running to that will lead us to a dead end. And so you're struggling with being an alcoholic at a young age, running to certain things. Where's the breaking point? Where's the like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I felt like I had a lot of those points, honestly. And it took me going through a lot of that to finally put it down. I would say the final straw, I kind of had my bouts with trying to quit for about a year and a half. I would, you know, stop for 2 weeks and then start again, stop for a month and start again. Just because I was really trying to figure it out in my life. And I endured a lot of pain in that time. Just mental pain and feeling very lost and lonely and scared. I didn't really feel like I had any other way to cope with just life in general. Because life isn't easy all the time and it's not perfect at all. So I had a hard time with that. And I would say the very last point for me, I went through a hard breakup and I ended up, and I was actually not drinking at that time. And then the breakup happened and I started drinking again. And for about 3 months, I think I maybe total in that 3 months was sober for, I don't know, maybe a total of 6 days in the whole 3 months. And I would, you know, wake up in the morning, tell myself, oh my gosh, like, I can't drink tonight. And then by the time 1 p.m. rolled around, I was like kind of already making my plans to go out and get drinks or hang out with this person.
And just know we're not talking about just having a glass of wine at a restaurant.
Right.
You know, that's what we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think in my head it would start out as that. Like, I'm just going to go have a glass of wine at dinner with a friend. Mostly that turned into 4. And then it turned into me going out somewhere else after. Or me picking up more on the way home and drinking more at home. It was always more for me. Yeah. It was never 1 or 2.
Yeah. And my heart breaks for that, because we all go through those challenging times, and for you wanting to know, and like, this is something I do not want to do. And then you do it. And it doesn't have to be alcohol to feel that guilt and that shame and that like, oh, and that's so much like the enemy that just pour you're no good and you can't do this. And I told you it wasn't real and all of these things. So I love the Bible. Like it speaks into those situations where we feel hopeless. He is the one that gives us hope. When we feel guilt and shame, he says, I want you. You are my masterpiece. You are the one I choose. You are my child. So the enemy can fill our mind with all kind of things. You wrestled with those. So what was the moment where it was like, no, I'm driving my stake in the ground. This is, I'm called to more than this, and somebody has a plan for my life. What did that look like?
Yeah. I remember actually the last night that I did drink, it was a Sunday, and it was it wasn't a plan of mine, how the day turned out. Of course, I had to work on Monday. So I was just drinking all day, and I ended up probably up until, 2 a.m. or something. And I spent way too much money that day, drank way too much. And on Monday, when, nothing insane happened that night, it was really more kind of a chill night, I guess. But I woke up Monday, and like I said, I had so many days and nights of just pain, and trying to ease that pain. And it got to a point for me where, alcohol was really no longer even doing that for me. So I woke up on Monday for work, and I had a really, really horrible anxiety attack. And I continued having these panic attacks for days after that. And I knew what quitting drinking could do because I had done it before for a month at a time. And I had the right support group too. And I know I've seen their lives. They have years of sobriety. And I knew what quitting drinking could do for me, because I've seen it in other people's lives. And so I woke up that Monday, I had a panic attack, and I remember I called my friend who in sobriety, and I told her, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. I'm ready to do whatever I need to do to quit drinking, quit this cycle, because I just think I had finally had enough. I'd had enough of the anxiety, the depression, the pain, and I think I just knew in my head that I was done at that point.
Yeah, and that point of waving the white flag and like, okay, I surrender this, and a lot of people would see that as, oh, that's a sign of weakness. But I love where the Bible speaks in it, where Paul says, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest upon me. Like, I am a weak person when it comes down to, there are things that I have to lay at the foot of the cross and say, God, I need you to really help me with this. I cannot tackle this on my own. And it sounds like, he did that, as you walked us through that last time, and he placed people around you. And then you were able to, your mom and dad did a great job of taking you to church and showing you to serve, that you're going back to all of those things. So who would you say that, like, there's a lot of answers that could probably come to this, but not so much of a religion, but a relationship with Christ. Who would you say that Jesus is to you now?
That's a great question. I would say he's a friend to me. someone who guides me, who is there for me, guides me into trying to do what's right all the time. I'm not perfect, so I can't always do what's right. But a friend, a mentor, a non-judgmental person who is there. 'Cause I feel like growing up Catholic, you get a little bit of a like a God with rules, and that's kind of how it felt when I was younger. So in my newfound relationship with Christ, it's more of a friend who is there, who is non-judgmental and just there to pick you up when you're down.
Pick you up when you're down, and there's times that you could probably look down that you were down and you felt no one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you're not the only one. I think I know with myself and everybody watching that's a common theme for all of us, that we are broken and we're busted down, but God. And so what would you say now, knowing what you know now and you have a relationship with Christ, what would you now say if you were looking at Callie at the age of 20, 21, 22, dealing through some of the things, what would you say to her now? Because your story impacts a lot of people. It takes a lot of courage to get behind a microphone and share a story of what God has done. What would you say to your younger self?
Oh my gosh. I would probably say so much. I would first tell her that everything's going to be okay, no matter what. I would also tell her that all of the things that she is pouring herself into are not going to fulfill whatever she's trying to fill. You kind of listed them earlier, but alcohol, drugs, anything that kind of gets you that instant gratification or that temporary fix, it leaves you empty every single time.
Every time.
No, I mean, every time. I've never experienced anything different. So I wish I could have told myself that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tammy and I have 3 daughters. And so it wouldn't matter if they were girls or boys, but however, I have girls. So I want all 3 of my girls to know how much I love them and how they deserve God's best, and to see themselves as a princess, as God's masterpiece. Why is that important? It's important to guys too now, but why is that so important to hear that being a female?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for a lot of reasons. I think it's also easy for, at least for myself, when I was younger and in college, I feel like I seeked out validation probably from men or, other guys my age. And it's important to know that you don't need that. You have validation in God. You are His, and you're perfect the way you are in His eyes. I think that's really important to know.
And when you have that confidence that God is for me, He is not against me, that He loves me, that He is the perfect gift giver. And that doesn't mean that you don't have a desire to get married or don't have a desire to do whatever. But you know that He's enough. And the more that we start to get into our word and we start to read and we start to grow, what is a it sounds kind of mystic a little bit. Well, what does a quiet time look like? What does a getting into God's word look like? It looks different for every single person, but what does it look like? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, I try to, I do it with my mornings sometimes. I have like a daily devotional that I do. I like to turn on worship music in the back. So I love worship music so much. That is 100% one of the biggest ways that I pray and connect with God. So I usually turn on worship music, open my devotional, kind of read what I need to read there, and reflect on that. And that's what I do. And I also, it's kind of funny, one of my grandma's best friends, she sends me a little quote every morning as well. So we'll kind of go back and forth. And then I have some people in my support group, my sober support group. We'll pray with each other. So I just do different things like that in the morning.
Well, you gave your life to Christ. You have a relationship with him. You start to walk in him. You start to stand to your word. Tammy, my wife, she was blessed to be able to baptize you. And baptism, there's nothing special about the water, but it's an outward sign of an inward change. And really, it's almost like a celebration to everybody else. Yes, it's special to the person being baptized, but it's even more special for the people that are out in the congregation. Like, yes, she's identifying with Christ, and it's kind of it is contagious because people see your life and they're like, wow, if she can be a flawed instrument and understanding her need for Jesus, if she can do that, then I can do that too. What has your life been like since? Because I know that you're a walking example of the grace of God, and he's probably has put you in situations where you get to talk about your sobriety, but you also get to talk about your Lord and Savior, Jesus. So tell me how that has opened up some opportunities for you.
Yeah, it has been beautiful. I feel like I've worked with a lot more people, like since getting sober and connecting back with Jesus. I've had a lot of opportunities to give my story. I help a lot of other women that are trying to get sober as well, and that are already sober. I will go talk at recovery centers and talk at different, like, I do an adolescent unit at one of the mental institutions here as well. So, kids in between the ages of 13 and 17 that are struggling with some things. And I get to tell them about God's love and about how it's changed my life and what it can do if you do give your life over to him and just trust in him and pray in the mornings and build that relationship. It's been amazing to just talk to different people that are in the spot that I was in, because I remember, it feels like not that long ago where I was on my knees asking for help in some way, and just lost, confused, lonely, scared, all the things that you feel when you don't have God in your life. And it's scary. It's a really scary feeling to feel that. And so getting to, I hate that other people go through that. I wish no one had to go through that. But getting to be there and tell them that, hey, there's an answer. There's a solution to everything you're going through. I promise, like, it's going to get better. And just share with them my story, my testimony, and that God is there to lead them in the right direction.
Everything that you said, I start to think of, in Matthew, it talks about being salt and light of the world, that we're to bring flavor to the world as salt does. It's a preservative, that it preserves things and it makes things tasty, that we are called to be that, that people see your life. And yes, I guess it'd be fair to say that the hell that your life was going through was intervened, and that God picked you up out of the mired clay, the Bible says, and he put your feet upon a rock, And then when people hear that, you bring flavor. They see you and they're like, man, that brings flavor, excitement. So, and then light, obviously. We've been in darkness, and so to see what the light is, that you don't want to go back to that. And so, thanks for being salt and light. The Bible talks about that I have a plan for you, a plans to prosper you, not to harm you, but give you a future and a hope. So, what does life look like for you now? Like what? Obviously, we looked at the past. We looked at the defining moment. If you had a blank sheet of paper, a blank canvas, and God says, okay, Callie, what would you like for us to draw? What would that look like?
I think it could go a lot of ways, I guess. But, life now, I feel like I can go anywhere and do anything that I want. And with God, I feel like I can do anything. Whereas before, I feel like I was kind of just doing the same things, the same places, with the same people all the time, and just almost running in place, is what it felt like. And now I feel like I can really go anywhere with his guidance. Like the whole, speaking at recovery centers and stuff, that's been a huge part of my life. And I want to continue doing that for sure. And helping other people that are in the same place that I was in a year and a half ago. And also getting more involved in the church. I've definitely wanted to do that more. And I've been looking into more community service opportunities. So I'm hoping to get into that more. And then in regards to my personal life, I have 4 pets at home, and it's kind of crazy, but I love that. Eventually I would love to find a partner and the right one and get married and have a family. So that's definitely would be in the plan for sure for me too, hopefully.
Wow. I see you being successful, whatever you set your mind out to do, just because your life has been touched. It's you can refute what people say, but you can't refute how they live. And there's something about a transformed life. I just see people that Jesus healed in the Bible. It's like their life's different. It's different because Christ. That doesn't mean they're perfect. But they're different, and they have an understanding of their need for Jesus on a daily basis. It's not one of those things that, I'll read my Bible one day and that's enough. It's going to take me until I die. And I've always appreciated, whether that's been AA or whether it's been something where it humbles you in the fact, like, my name is such and such and I'm an alcoholic. So we never get really high and we never get too low, but it's just a consistent burn, and it helps our relationships in that. You mentioned your family being really close. The new Callie to them, has that, the relationship, how's that now?
Yeah.
Not that it was bad then, but.
No, for sure. It's definitely changed. Because before we partied a lot together. That's just kind of what we did as a family. And now that I'm not doing that anymore, the dynamic has changed a lot. And I think it was at first a shock to them. Because it is, I'm almost a whole different person than I was, truly. I mean, to my core, I have a lot of the same values, and I am the same in some ways, but I'm also very, very different. So, I mean, it's put a little bit of a strain on some of the relationships in my family, because I do feel like it's a little bit of a different path than the paths that they've taken, which is okay. Both are okay. It's been a work in progress.
And my prayer for you would be that you continue to be salt and light of the world, and as they see their daughter, a transformed life, that they will see the same God, the same loving God that you talked about just a moment ago. Because there's other people that are seeing your life, and whether that be an addiction recovery place, whether it be the places that you get to speak. You were baptized not too long ago, I guess, but now you had a friend that you spoke into her life, and you started to do life with her, and then tell us the story.
With the person I baptized?
Yeah.
Yes. So I had a friend. It was actually a good friend from high school, and he was actually struggling a little bit with some things, and reached out, and he noticed that I had gotten baptized, and that I had also gotten sober. So of course, conversation gets flowing, and yeah, he ended up asking me to baptize him.
That's awesome.
Because he yearned for that relationship with God. And so we talked over it, and
I love seeing that, whether it's conversations on the phone or whether it's in the centers that you'll get a chance to speak to, or even if it's in your family, that you continue to live out the grace that was shown to you, the love that was shown to you. You continue to show that unto the world. What a fantastic story, really, of God, really of how great He is, and how powerful He is, and how loving He is. But your story speaks to a lot of people. So I can't thank you enough for coming on. Is there anything that God's showing you now that you just kind of, as we close up, is there anything that that you're reading, that you're just being challenged or encouraged, or that you just feel compelled, like God's laying this on my heart past couple days, weeks, whatever?
I feel like I've been asking Him a lot. I have a lot of anxiety, which I've been working on a lot in the last year, but I feel like mainly my relationship with Him right at this moment, it's been a lot of me trying to share gratitude with Him in the mornings, and then asking Him to allow me to lay my anxieties and fears at His feet every single day. That's been the biggest thing right now, I think. Because I feel like you said, every day you have to wake up and choose. I mean, I have to wake up every day and surrender every single morning.
That's right.
And say, this is not my show. God's running the show, and I have to actively lay everything at His feet and ask Him to guide me in the day. Because I can take my self-will back really easily every single day. So that's been the main thing, I guess, if that answer made sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for challenging us, encouraging us, inspiring us, to what it looks like to totally surrender our imperfections, and to not be ashamed of the weaknesses that we've had, that we can, in our weaknesses, that's when we see that God is the strongest. And so thanks for coming into this huddle. Thanks for coming into this space. I'm super proud of you. Thanks for doing that. So any way that we can help you, please let us know, okay?
Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for having me.